Be me. Out on a night walk literally just now, unarmed because bong. Going to walk across the field near the river. Enter field. Suddenly, loud screaming speech. But not speech. It's like the cadence of speech but just noise. Ba do cuh tim da boit. Lilwoot.jpg. Stand there. Ya doi doom juhb sout. It's closer. Do a 360 and walk away. Put some distance between me and field. Raju bam yalkahh keem. Sounds still coming from field. Just keep walking. Walk back out onto main road. Neeh Harun uuh san. It's halfway up the side street I just walked up, and screaming louder. Take a look back as I cross the main street. Clank. A huge, metallic clank on the pavement as I just see its weird, shambling form silhouetted in the darkness, no lights around, they turn all the street lights out at night here. Weird humanoid shape, but longer legs, one rigid leg, hobbling fast gait, torso about human length. Clank again as it moves the rigid leg. I tum and take the next turning the opposite way out the main street. Ra-ear, the I sound became a high-pitched squeal, dune rit. I start slow running up the street because WTF is this thing and why is it pursuing me? I take the footpath cutting across between this road and the other side of the river, from where I can cut around to home and get inside. Clank. Now, this clanking noise it makes is really fucking loud, like imagine carrying a fucking massive gas canister and dropping it every time you take a step on that side. I run up this footpath faster because this thing is definitely following me. I'm about 1/3 the way up it, it's pretty long. Caam rata loop in ya suum ba. Still clanking, take a glance back to the road. It's silhouetted there, I'd say it's 7 feet tall. Scrawny but muscled build, like it's just muscle and not much in the way of anything else. Doesn't even seem to care how its head hangs, just moves its body, head wobbles around. Its rigid leg looks like it's just some sort of thing, not natural, made of something, it swings it. Clank. Fuck this, I run to near the end of the path while it's still on the road. Slow up as I round the last corner, just fast walking, head to the bridge over the river. 2 stoners sitting on the bench near the bridge, just walk past and cross the bridge, hopefully they might distract it or something if it comes up here. As I cross the bridge, I can hear it in the distance. Yeah, breaking on the I sound again. Proceed to fast walk my way around in the loop towards home, I think I can hear clanking in the distance, but I'm further now, can't be sure for certain or if it's my heightened senses just creating it. If I'm that far away from it, it's good anyway. Feels goodman.jpg. Cut through this little alleyway to a long side street that links up onto the road I live on. Clank on the wind. Down near where it came out onto the main road. FFS. Walk a little way up the side road to hear better. Farum tam bin. Clank. Waiting here for a bit then. Clank. Wait. Clank. Repeat waiting, listening. It's walking up the main road. Wait as it moves, listening to its position. It's coming up this way, hear it clanking up. Lamb. Heart rate speeds up a bit again. Clank. Wait. Clank. It's nearly at the top of the side street, probably about 10 m, I'm about 500 m down it though. FFS I just want to go home you horrible foul beast. Clank. Wait. Clank. It's getting more distant. It's turned off up the road opposite this one, heading away. Clank. Match its pace and walk up towards the top of the road. As I come to the comer at the top, wait around out of sight of the main road, listening to it clank up and away for a minute. As it becomes more distant, I emerge onto the main road and make my way down it towards home. And obviously I arrived safely home and it didn't get me. Any ideas what this abomination might be? It was fucking weird. Didn't speak, just like it was trying to do something like speak, with tone and noise, screaming. This wasn't creepy, but just terrifying. Like a video game scenario but in real life, and I've no weapons on me, no medkits or stims. It definitely knew it couldn't keep up when I ran, and seemed to loop around the block patrolling after I evaded it. I guess it either went looking for me thinking I might return or maybe to find some other prey. It's fucking weird, /x/, it's at least semi-intelligent, and it's not all organic, the clunk sounded so metallic. Also weird personal experience thread, green text, or not, but if it happened to you, drop your story. No pics, it was dark out so I couldn't take any, and I wasn't letting it get close enough for flash on my phone.
Alright, this happened to me a few days ago, but it unnerved me so much that I haven't given it much thought until now, and I was immediately struck by the resemblance my encounter has with the Skinwalker stories I've read here on /x/. So I figured I may as well type this shit up and see what you guys have to say about it. First and foremost, I'd like to note that I'm an introverted 23-year-old living in Ohio who's bordering on becoming a shut-in, but I have this one friend from high school who, much to her credit, hasn't given up on me yet. She's dating this guy who got her into vintage cars, and she's going through this big rockabilly phase which I don't personally care for, which is why I declined her previous invitations to attend local car shows. But this past Saturday I gave in. I'll call her E for anonymity's sake, and her boyfriend shall be J. Now, I was a little nervous getting a ride out there with them because I didn't want to get left behind for one reason or another, but I also didn't want to take my own car for fear of getting lost out in the rural parts of Ohio. It's easy to lose track of a specific vehicle in a crowd, and I'm terrible with directions, so I figured the best option was to climb in the back of Jay's old remodeled truck. We drove for what seemed like hours, and, just as I'd suspected, we ended up in what was basically the middle of nowhere. The car show was being held on a large expanse of field that was only really accessible through a thin stretch of road that looked like it was more suited for tractors than old racing cars. As we pulled up and I took in the layout of this exhibition, I was none too impressed, but I couldn't tell you that. Plus, for better or worse, I was stuck there until they were ready to go, so I had to either make the best of it or be miserable for the whole day. Skipping to the meat of the story. I'll just say that I got bored of the seemingly endless rows of cars pretty fast, and as dusk approached I was hopeful that we would soon be leaving, but my hopes were thoroughly crushed when an impromptu bonfire was assembled. Feeling exhausted at this point and wishing that I hadn't come, I took a seat on a picnic table that was situated on this block of concrete a bit away from where all the vintage cars were parked. I was bored out of my mind as I listened to the men drunkenly talk about parts and tools, as if they hadn't done enough of that in the daylight. And by chance I happened to catch some guy staring at me through the crowd. I remember being a little unnerved by the intensity of his gaze, but I brushed it off thinking he was either going to cause trouble or he was high on shrooms. Either way, I diverted my attention elsewhere, and I sort of forgot about the guy as I thought about what I could have been doing at home on the computer in that moment. Minutes passed when I felt someone slide onto the bench beside me, and I offhandedly glanced over, expecting whoever it was to be oblivious to my presence much like everyone else at this little shindig. But much to my surprise, the person was staring at me dead on. I jumped and reared back, more than ready to berate him for scaring the crap out of me when it clicked in my head. This was the guy who'd been staring at me from the other side of the crowd, and just like before, he was staring so hard at me that it freaked me right the fuck out. Being who I am though, I tried to play it off. I smiled and said something like, "Hey, how's it going?" He didn't respond, only continued to stare at me, and the longer I looked at him the more I realized that something was off. Despite how intensely his eyes were locked on me, the muscles in his face seemed slack. His jaw wasn't really sitting right in his mouth, and his arms were limply sprawled across his lap like he'd just let them fall as they may when he sat down next to me and hadn't bothered to readjust them. I was really unnerved by this point, and just when I was about to excuse myself, he did something I don't think I'll ever be able to forget. Without anything else changing in his facial expression, his lips started to curl upwards. It was a slow process, and I could actually see the muscles tensing and straining in his cheeks as his lips gradually moved higher and higher until, I now realize with startling clarity, he was giving me the exact same smile I'd given him not too long ago. But it didn't stop there. They kept moving further up until I could see his gums and his lips were stretched thin and white. It was only then that I smelled it, some horrible stench like a dead dog that had crawled up straight out of hell. I didn't even bother with pleasantries as I quickly stood up and moved away from him. At the time, I thought maybe he was just some whacked out loser, but looking back on it I see all kinds of similarities with what I've heard concerning skinwalkers. It's probably a really good thing that this thought didn't cross my mind at the time, because otherwise I don't think I could have handled what happened next. So, I went looking for my friend and her boyfriend through the crowd, intent on telling them that we had to leave and I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I finally found her and I tell her what happened. Of course she tries to say it was probably some guy who was just tripping out and if I stay with her and Jay I should be fine. I told her that wasn't going to work for me and that I really needed to leave. I could tell that they were really disappointed, but much to my relief they gave in. They bid their farewells, though it was far from fast enough for me, and we walked across the dark field to his truck. We get in and start driving away. I actually thought I was home free in that moment, but as it turns out I seem to have really bad luck. Just as we go to pull out onto that thin road, something stumbles into the headlights. Sure, I was ready to start screaming my lungs off in the blink of an eye, but I calmed down when I saw it was a woman, until that as she lifted her head, looked straight through the windshield at me and her lips started to slowly curl upwards. I was ready to have a panic attack at this point as I gripped the back of his seat and I told Jay to just drive. Despite the panic that was no doubt in my voice, he didn't understand and said that he was just going to see if she was alright. He rolled down the window and stuck his head out, asking her if she was okay. Her head bobbed up and down sort of like a bobblehead's, but she didn't say anything. She was still smiling and I watched in terror as Jay exchanged a look with E before leaning out the window again and asking her if she wanted a ride back into town, name omitted for anonymity's sake. And she nodded the same as before, almost like most of the tendons in her neck were cut or something. I'm sure you can imagine at this point the horror racing through my veins, though I didn't understand it at the time, and then double that as you think about watching this strange person slowly walk around to the driver's side passenger door. Pull the creaky door open and weakly climb in to sit next to you on the back seat. Yeah, I was ready to piss my pants. I'm actually surprised I didn't throw up from how scared I was. Well, we started driving again and I pushed myself as far into the Comer as I could without ever taking my eye off her, but much to my surprise she never even looked at me. She spent the entire ride looking down at her lap and I was seriously starting to question how long we were going to keep her in the car with us, seeing as she hadn't specified where she needed to be dropped off at, but as we were passing a house on a back road right near the city limits she suddenly spoke. Just one word. Here, but it wasn't the English language as we know it, it was more like a croak that sounded like the word here, and it turned my blood to pure ice. Jay was confused but did pull over to let her out. Ever the gentleman, he asked if she was really okay being let out here and she climbed out, turned to look at him in the driver's window and nodded like a damn bobblehead again. Jay and E bid their farewells and it was only for a split second, but I swear I saw her lips start to curl upwards again and then she spun around and seamlessly disappeared into the darkness. The two lovebirds up front agreed that the situation seemed a bit strange and I didn't even try to tell them the truth. Mainly because I don't know what the truth was. After I was dropped off at home, I turned on every light in the house before locking myself in my room, which is how I've been sleeping since then. The entire thing just really scared the crap out of me, and now that I'm seeing the Skinwalker connections I'm even more unnerved by the memory. I haven't seen either of those people since that night, but I've only really left the house for work because I'm still really paranoid about the whole thing. Was it drugs? A coincidence? I honestly don't think I want to know.
Be 18, just finished high school, have a break before starting college. Grew up in semi-rural area. Parents' house is on a long dirt road, little way out of the closest town. 5 other houses on same stretch of road, all on large properties. Know all the people who live in the other houses and their cars. End of road leads to a clearing that overlooks the city. Nothing beyond the clearing, just a cliff. Used to drive out to the clearing with my GF for picnics and sex. One night, bit after 9 p.m, getting ready to leave the clearing. GF is in passenger seat, I walk around to driver's side door. Get the feeling I'm being watched, hairs standing up on the back of my neck. About 50 m away a truck is pulling into the clearing. Weird thing is the truck didn't come from the direction of my parents' house, it came from the other way where there's nothing except a cliff. We're in the clearing for about 4 hours, arrived during daylight, never saw the truck before. Get a really bad feeling about the truck, it's black and nondescript, looks like there's just one person in the driver's seat but can't make out any face in the dark. Haven't seen the truck before, doesn't belong to any of my neighbors. GF says I think we should leave. Don't have to tell me twice. Start the engine and take off on the road towards parents' house. Truck follows us and starts tailgating. Speed up, now doing well over 80, along the dirt road. Truck is literally right on my ass. GF panics, calls 911. Keep going past my parents' house. We reach the sealed road, there are street lights now. Truck has eased off. I look back and for the first time I can make out an extremely pale face. Has black eyes and something like a mouth but no nose, long white fingers wrapped around the steering wheel. Looks kind of human but not quite. We get closer to the town and start passing cars, truck peels off. Police car meets us, GF explains what happened and we give them the plate. No. Police have no record of the plate. I am out.
Here's a story that I've never shared before. It's not really paranormal, but it scares the living shit out of me. 17 years old, been smoking weed regularly with a couple of guys from college. I'm from the UK, we start college at 16, for a year now. One of the guys usually drives and we smoke up in this field that's deserted at night. Driver gets a call from someone. He starts freaking out, literally laying on the floor screaming down the phone. Never heard screaming like that before, it was fucking terrifying. He's not even making sense, he's like writhing around on the floor and screaming down the phone. Starts doing this weird fucking laughing, all bug-eyed and weird. Calmly puts his phone in his pocket. Climbs very tall fence for a tennis court. Jumps off, lands on his neck and fucking kills himself. Guy I hung around with every day for a year just UPS and kills himself because of a phone call and none of us know who it was on the other end. I wish I was making this up, but it fucked me up for a while afterwards. The other guy we were with started using ketamine regularly. We're both 21 now and he's completely screwed in the head. I was on medication for a while afterwards, shitty citalopram, but came off it quickly. The police put it down to a stoned idiot climbing the fence. They interviewed us both once and that was it. I never even heard from his family, they moved out of the county pretty quickly. I still have his younger brother on Facebook. I've buried the memory somewhere in my brain and just try to ignore it, but whenever my phone rings and I don't have the number saved then I always get a horrible feeling and I never answer. I'm not even explaining how fucking weird this guy was acting when he answered his phone, it was horrible. The fucking noises he was making were so fucking disgusting. I can't even try to explain it because it makes me feel physically sick. Friend has an apartment next to a field. We were in his house one night smoking and relaxing. It gets to about 2 to 3 a.m. The area is pretty nice so we decide to go sit on the field for a bit. The field has the huge hill with a few benches on the top, with an amazing view of the city in which we live. We climb up and sit down. Listening to music and talking. About 3 of us, me, and the other guy are talking when my third friend goes silent. He starts saying, "What the fuck is that?" We look down the hill. Something that looks like a fully grown man running on all fours, looked kinda the way a human would look trying to walk on all fours, sorta had an arched back/ass, only way to describe it. We all stare as it runs across the bottom of the hill. No way it could see us considering it was dark and we could only just about see it from the light in the opposite houses and the glow from the city. It runs into some trees or whatever. We feel a little creeped out by it but fuck it, probably just some drugged up asshole. About half an hour later we hear this sound, like a scream but not human. Reminded me of a bird mixed with a pig squeal, but had that sort of tone you hear when a man imitates a bird call badly. We all look at each other. Friend whistles for a laugh trying to get a reaction to whatever it is. Everything is silent. The noises starts again, repeating more rapidly. We nope the fuck out and pretty much run the opposite way from my friend's house and whatever the fuck it was. We walk about half an hour to loop round the field to get home. Get into his house, lock all of the doors. Can still hear the noise, however far off. We stay in the bathroom and lock the door all night terrified. None of us can explain what it was, or whether the thing we saw was the cause of the noise, but still, it was terrifying. My friend says he wants to move now and I doubt we'll go back.
Biking into the forest for a camping trip. There's a trail in the middle of nowhere, far from civilization. Make my camp some meters from the trail in a clearing, leave my bike and everything there. Decide to walk the beautiful trail while it's still daylight. Haven't rode my bike in years, so I have really sore muscles, really feeling it in my glutes, quads, and calves. As well as my back from being hunched over the bike with my heavy backpack. Hobbling and staggering around very stiffly, but proud of my DOMs. Suddenly see a guy on the trail. Get really happy to see another nature appreciator, shout hello there. No response, he seems autistically quiet and tense. Maybe he's very antisocial. He pulls out a small black flashlight or something, but doesn't turn it on. Just points it at me. Things are getting strange, but stay cheerful to diffuse the situation. I notice he's got a real dangerous glint in his eyes, like how you'd imagine an SS prison guard or deranged mercenary to look like. Kinda demonic. Say it's nice to meet ya. He shouts something, but slurs his words so I can't even understand. I realize the object he's holding is a gun. Oh shit. He fired multiple times. I do the classic, stop, drop and roll. Roll into a nearby underbrush, there's a ditch so I escape fast. No bullet hit me. When I peek out he's already gone. Felt like encountered some deranged psycho killer, was very glad I survived.
Don't know if it's the same creature, but I managed to meet my great-grandfather's aunt's grandson. Really unclear how I was related to him since I was only 8 or so. Anyways, he's an Archie who practically lived like a pioneer half of the time, Innawoods hunting, skinning, trapping, the whole 9 yards. Had a huge collection of firearms. Likely a dozen revolvers, and a couple dozen long guns. I know little of gun terminology and time doesn't make it easier to identify them, but I'm confident it was an assortment of old shotguns and rifles, some of them double-barreled or over-under. I think some were even the ones that are the first semi-automatic rifles. This is a big log and stone cabin with lots of room for him to display every piece in its own memorial. He kept each individual gun with trophies he had gotten with that gun. Bear heads, panther heads, antlers ranging from pencils to baseball bats. If a gun had done something, it'd show. Except for 3 which were left in the corner, barely visible and hidden behind the many trophies associated with the other members of his collection. I thought the guns looked sad. I'm that corner they were completely ignored, and it was obvious that he didn't care if he forgot they ever existed tucked away back there. Cobwebs in the barrels and everything. Ask him why those guns that seem just as good as the other ones don't have any achievements. He grabs me by the shoulders, pushes me into a seat and pulls up a stool which he sits on. He starts telling me about how those 3 guns, rifle, shotgun, and a revolver, failed him in such a manner they don't deserve a chance to prove themselves. He was kinda odd like that. He tells me about being in Innawoods and how things work a bit differently out in the wilderness than cozied up to civilization. He says he's been lots of places, hiked up and done laps in the Appalachian where the beasts have a kind of endurance that separated them from others. Reminder, this is all second-hand, never been out there and had spooky stuff happen or hear similar stories from other relatives. When he traveled up the Mississippi, the beasts were faster and harder to track. He never described those creatures as being abnormal, but the next one he insisted was not meant to exist in a world with man. He was out enough that it was pretty common for him to be going through an area he has passed through before on separate trips. On his 3rd trip through one of those areas, he became aware he had garnered the attention of something. I think it did creep him out and make him uneasy, but the man had that revolver, rifle, and shotgun with him each of those times. The creature he found there wasn't swift like the stuff by the rivers, nor was it undaunted by him as the mountains creatures were. On his fourth trip through that area he found proof something in the area was interested in him. First he found tracks within whatever remained of earlier passes through. Soon though, new tracks were making trails to lure him down unexplored trails that he had never been through. At that point he noticed there was never, not even one set of tracks from anything in that area. No boar passed through, no deer or bear, no bobcats, or varmint. Sixth time he had a confrontation with it, whatever it was. He had come to a two-way fork where the trail split, one way being his former route and the other being a mimicry of the ones he had created. He decided for the first time, to go down the strange, imposter trail. It was only a few hundred feet before he decided he had to turn around. He didn't know where this path was going to lead him or when he'd reach any open ground. When he did about halfway back to the fork the bushes to his right rustled and the undergrowth tore and snapped from something. No blood and copper smell or some BS like that. As he entered sight of where the trail had split, something strolled out of the foliage it had remained concealed in for so long. It didn't move in the purposeful, measured manner things usually move in. He said it was more like a rattlesnake rattling its tail, a kind of fluid smooth movement that could just as easily be the end of it moving or the beginning. I'm not quite sure that I understand what that means. He takes a good look at this thing and is disgusted. It is a blight on nature, something every other beast would shun. It is not a boar nor bear, carries not the crown of deer or the darkness of panthers. And the thing is downright spoopus, so he does what any sensible person would do. He fires the double-barreled shotgun at its right hip. Immediately the thing lurches backwards and bits of flesh, fur, and blood splatter around. Then it stumbles backwards and leans into the bushes the thing wobbled out of in a slightly less slender manner. Right now the thing is making all fucking kinds of noise, growling and wild shrieking, unsettling laughter, and mumbled calls that might have been words but might just as likely have been gibberish. Started reloading the shotgun but just dropped it. The way the thing scrambled after that shot it took demonstrated the shotgun didn't penetrate its hide well enough. And so the shotgun failed him forever. He was whipping the revolver out of his pants tactical pocket belt holster when that smell started. Smelled like a handful of pennies that were stuck up a dog's ass but without the shitty ass smell, just the smell from being round a smelly dog. Now he had his revolver out and ready, so he pushed the bush out of his way so he could see the thing stroll towards one of the other paths it had made. He shot 6 times. 2 misses, 1 went through the neck and would have likely went out the chin. 1 hit where the heart would be if it was on the right and 2 info the shoulder and shoulder blade. Thing gave 0 fucks and scooted on. This should be the last bit. He's pissed the thing has shrugged off all the hits it's took and just decided to go on its way. Fuck you revolver, rifle, don't be failure like those two. Rifle out, it's not really going anywhere too fast, so he takes a few moments to get a look at the thing. He sees the spots where his revolver's shots went in, but they seem like when they went through the fur and hide they got caught in it and caught up like a stretched rubber band. Mangled mess of fur keeps anything from penetrating deep. To know what the hell you are, but you better not teach no bucks how to do that, you mangy mutton mannequin. What did you call it? 4 shots from the rifle all target that spot on the shoulder where 2 revolver rounds hit. They all hit but do little more than making it a little scattering of bald patches where the fur ripped in tangles. Fuck that thing. The fur jammed into the bullet holes and the mess of fur around them are soaking up the majority of what it might have been bleeding. Bloodied some fur that likely had more fur grow over it. Those guns never accomplished anything and never will. Then he was wanted somewhere and had to stop there. Not much of a finish, but I never got the chance to see if there was anything more that happened.
Haven't found anything from Ontario in my files unfortunately, but here's a story out of Vancouver. It takes a while to get to the main event, but it's a very comfy read. My grandfather was a badass. He was born in Alberta during the early 30s, and raised his 3 brothers on a reservation from the time he was 9. His parents had left for British Columbia with their only daughter, promising to return, but none of the boys ever saw them again. To make ends meet, he learned carpentry and worked as a laborer, and bare-knuckle boxed against older men for extra cash. He learned how to track and hunt, and always came home with something to eat when work was scarce. But when he was 14, He put the second oldest brother in charge of the household and left the rest in search of his parents and a better life. That was the last time he saw any of his family members. He spent several months riding the rails, befriending some transients and using his fighting skills to defend himself against others. He eventually made his way to Vancouver, the last known whereabouts of his parents and sister, and started working in a pulp mill. At 17, he met my grandmother, and the two eventually married, which led him to give up his search for his family. They bought some land, and he spent his free time building several houses, which still stand today. One of those sat on the land he bought with my grandmother, which included acres of wooded area. On this land, my grandparents kept horses and dogs and small farm animals for eggs and meat. My aunt was born in the early 50s, and then my mother came along right before the end of the decade. As far as I've heard, nothing bad or strange really happened until my mom found an old Ouija board and played with it by herself, although I don't know if that actually has anything to do with the following events. My mother was around 8 when she was riding her horse through the wooded part of their acreage, when the horse stopped dead in its tracks. My mom tried to spur it on, but it was frozen in fear, and all of a sudden she smelled something like rotting garbage and meat. She pulled back on the reins and the horse instantly turned and took off back towards the house, almost knocking her off its back several times along the way. Afterwards, that horse was never the same. If she went near it, it would try to kick her, and if she got on it, it would fall backwards, trying to crush her beneath it. At one point, it seemed to be back to its old self again, letting her climb onto it. But once she did, it ran towards the road and stopped abruptly, bucking her forward into the path of an oncoming car. My grandpa saw it happen and put a shotgun up to its head, but the horse just kept breathing heavily and staring straight ahead. My mother barely missed being run over by a car that saw the horse coming and managed to swerve out of the way, and my grandmother begged my grandfather not to shoot the horse. He finally decided to give it away when he saw my mother wasn't badly injured. That same horse fell on the next person to ride it, breaking her collarbone, and the father did what my grandpa said he should have done the first time. After that, animals started going missing, and one of the hunting dogs was attacked by something during the night. It survived, but the poor dog was badly injured. My grandpa set out some traps and stayed in the hayloft above the barn with a shotgun and rifle beside him, and slept out there for several nights. He figured it was foxes, or maybe coyotes or wolves, or even a desperate bear, which is what he attributed the smell in the woods to. He figured it was also the reason the horse lost its mind. But nothing came the entire time he slept out there, and eventually he figured it had moved on to easier prey or died. The day after he stopped sleeping in the barn, my mom was out near the tree line playing with the injured dog as it was healing. Out of nowhere, the dog started sniffing the air, then positioned itself between my mom and the trees, growling and barking. My grandpa heard the noise and came out, then stopped dead in his tracks. He called back to my grandmother to bring his rifle, then whistled for the dogs. My grandma came out, handed him his gun, then asked what was going on. As the dogs all started to react like the first one, my grandfather pointed to one of the treetops, which looked longer and thicker than those around it, but it was very slightly moving. There was something up there. When Grandpa would later retell the story, he said whatever it was must have been at least 6 feet tall, but it was probably a good bit taller. He took aim and fired just as he saw a pair of wings start to open up. Whatever was up there was watching them, but he beat it to the punch. It was a kill shot, directly in the chest with a high-powered rifle, and he instantly started running forward with all of the dogs following him as the thing plummeted to the ground, the breaking of tree branches wholly unmistakable. When he reached the impact point, he raised his rifle again and commanded the dogs forward to flush it out, but they all just stood in the spot and kept spinning around, trying to catch a scent that seemingly disappeared. A pile of broken branches lay in the obvious landing spot, but beyond that there was no proof that anything had happened. No body, no blood, No trail. It had either disappeared or gone straight back up the way it came. He searched those woods for several days but never found a sign of what that thing was, and they didn't see it or experience issues with the animals after that. Decades later, when he was dying, he kept talking about how he saw something. In his delirium, he referred to it as an alien, but said it was coming back for him. I've never seen that man scared of anything in my life, but there was actual panic and fear in his voice. A few nights before he died, he had already been too weak to stand on his own for several days, and my grandmother awoke to the sound of a gunshot. She ran outside, fearing the worst, and saw my grandpa lowering his rifle, staring at something in the distance. She took the gun away and helped him back inside, and that was it. I don't know if whatever it was actually did come back for him, or if it was a hallucination of an old memory, but I'd like to think he went out with a final FU to the thing that tried to torment his family all those years ago. Keep an eye out on those treetops, OP. Anon. Sequoia National Park. Okay, here's mine. B26. Be known for investigating and debunking paranormal shit. Relative tells me about strange lights over lake at night. Lives 2 hours away, so why not? Get to relative's house and we talk about his sightings. Sit around a few nights sitting at dock waiting. See 2 orbs of light come up from opposite sides of the lake. Start recording. Get some good footage, study it. Relative takes me to a few people who seen this phenomenon. They describe the same thing my relative has seen. We get to this elder. Tells us of a story his grandmother told him. Grandma used to say that 2 Native American witch doctors used to look over this land and battle for the souls of the people. One bad and one good. Take his story as down as good info. Go down to visit more people. Find 12-year-old girl who says she's seen one of them up close. She's eerie and quiet during most of my questions. Tells me she encountered it outside her house late at night. Looks like a man made out of light. It kept getting closer, so I ran inside. Next day I find out the girl's grandmother passed away. Go home, study my info. Come back a month later. Stay at relatives again, lights are back. Next day we find out someone in town died again. Natural causes. Start seeing a pattern. Start planning to investigate where the source of the lights come from. Knock at door. It's the 12-year-old girl. Says something to me in native language. I record it, she leaves. Take it to old native man and show him. Translated: you are too close. Proceed and you will die. The truth will kill you. Nope.jpg. Next day, I find out the girl went missing. She turned up 2 weeks later. Drowned in the lake. I close my investigation and give all my info to the native people living in town. One of the elders tells me I am a wise man destined to come back again. Gives me a blessing and I head home. If you'd like to know more, just say so. More info on the story? In the 2 weeks she was missing, I still did research. Decided not to do the investigation towards the source of the lights out of superstition. 3 days before the girl was found. Both lights are back. I have a telescope handy this time. Managed to focus on one of them. It looked almost like a wraith, moved like stingray through water. See 6 to 7 smaller lights gather and start following it. Can't see them without the scope. I lose focus on them and they disappear. Next day, get call from middle-aged guy. Says he heard about me. Tells me what he seen that night. His story takes place 45 minutes after I lose track. There was flashes outside my house and I came out and these 2 balls of light were dancing with each other. Then one of them zipped across the lake and these other little orbs come out of the bushes and start following the big one. Next day, start gathering more stories. Start to notice people of all ages have seen these orbs. few days later the girl turns up. It's been 2 years now, I want to go back and see where these lights originate from. Any suggestions on how I can get maybe 12 to 14 people to tag along? Safety in numbers.
I lived in an aged urban Alabamian town most of my life and, as is the case with most of Alabama, you are never more than 15 minutes away from an extremely rural area. Between the ages of 11 to 13ish I hung out with a bro that lived near the woods and have a few really good Innawoods stories. At brother's house. To the side and behind the house it's in a clearing surrounded by crops and pastures. Beyond the crops and pastures were woods with very large trees, but fairly spaced out. They were tall enough to block out a lot of light yet sparse enough for there not to really be a designated trail. No houses for half a mile in either direction, very poorly lit so on clear nights you really could see so much of the sky. In front of the house, there's the road with very steep ditches on either side and on the side of the road opposite of the house was a much more thick wooded area, maybe 20 feet from the road, trees not as big and very dense. However there existed trails for hunting purposes and general hiking. Had a friend that lived at the end of the road about a half a mile down that we'd visit. Walking back to bro's house with bro from friend that lived at the end. As we're approaching the darkest point and maybe halfway mark between houses I can slightly make out what appears to be a white shed in a woods. Mention it to bro and he sees it too. We both stop when we're directly across from it on the road. Can distinctly make out the borders of the shed, and even take notice the shape of a window frame. We both stare and offer a minute because we know with absolute certainty there was never a shed there, and it's right on the border of the woods so it would be apparent if it ever were there. Ear-burstingly loud crash comes inside the shed. Me and friend straining every ounce of energy we have out of our bodies to sprint until our lungs gave out to make it up. Go back the following day in the sun. No shed. Supposed to be in the third to last line. To make it back. Another Innawoods story. At same bro's house. His dad is ex-military with boxes of MREs and all sorts of guns stored in the house. In the sparse backwoods that I mentioned in Anon they owned a school bus that his dad used to hunt in. Has a bed, shelves of MREs, a couch, and a love seat, toilet, wood stove, 2 barrels of filtered water, and a television. Me, bro, and 3 other friends hike out to the woods to stay the night in the bus. Bring snacks, blankets, a couple portable DVD players and some movies. Bro's dad makes us take a walkie-talkie out there but said not to wake him up unless it was an emergency. Kicking it with my brothers having a great time for a few hours. Around 3 a.m. our DVD players and phones have died so we're just talking, playing card games and, would you rather? Gets quiet at one point. Bus starts shaking slightly. No one says anything but the silence continues because we all acknowledged it but not aloud. Few minutes pass and we start talking again. Bus starts shaking again a little harder. Did you guys feel that or am I imagining it? Everyone feels it. We all go dead silent and wait. Hear the grass rustle around the back of the bus. We all start flipping our shit and frantically pulling up all the windows we had open. Bus starts shaking violently. Hear the screeching sound of something sharp scraping/clawing the side of the bus near us. The oldest guy there is literally crying and hiding under a blanket not saying a word while the rest of us are freaking the fuck out. Hear a very low growl coming from directly beneath the window. We're all frozen in place. Few minutes pass by and nothing happens. We're looking for the walkie-talkie to call bro's dad but can't find it anywhere. Suddenly hear blood-curdling shriek of something clearly inhuman. Almost all of us are in tears at this point. Words getting caught in our throats as we're frantically searching for walkie-talkie. Dumb motherfucker that's been frozen solid not saying a word underneath the blanket and crying for 10 minutes was laying on it. Bus shaking harder than ever and still hearing footsteps around the bus in between shakes. Bro calls his dad on walkie-talkie and is screaming at him to come down there and tells him something is shaking the bus and screeching and clawing at it. He tells us he's on his way and to stay inside and not open the bus door for anything but him. Couple minutes pass by of progressively lighter shakes. Suddenly see bro's dad sprinting down the trail towards the bus with some assault rifle with a light attached to it. Tells us to stay in the bus. He makes a couple passes around the bus looking for whatever it was. Comes back, he didn't see anything. We closely follow him as he leads us back to the house, gun up and ready. None of us speak to each other for the rest of the night. His dad said the next day he thought it was likely a mountain lion, but none of us bought it for a second. I don't imagine anything with less than human strength could shake the bus as much as it was shaking. To this day that night remains the single most terrifying night of my life, and that was like 7 years ago. I think that may have been the only time in my life I felt genuine terror. I genuinely feared for my life that night. The most obvious answer would likely be bear, but it was winter and there aren't many bears in that part of Alabama. It remains a possibility, but the screech sounded much more human-like than bear.
In year 8. Attending a private high school because fuck public education is shit. On a school camp. In the middle of the woods/scrub because why the fuck not? We are doing orienteering and all that. It's time for nighttime orienteering. In the woods. At night. With little to no moonlight. I am having a blast. Scaring all my friends and telling scary, fake, stories. The girls are freaking out. The guys are laughing. Our mentor seems to be having a good time. Suddenly our mentor stops dead in her tracks. We stop too. I thought she might have needed to take a whiz or something. See her scanning the darkness just outside of our torch range. Takes a moment, but it eventually clicks when I see a big shadowy mass move behind a tree. Just me imagination, please, oh god. After a while most of the other kids are getting rowdy except one girl who's at the back. Slip back there to her as she's also scanning the tree line. She whispers to me asking if I saw it too. Damn it. Yes, I did, and it was big. Our mentor decides to radio in with the others to see if anybody is near our orienteering track. Picture related, same forest but different area. Everybody checks back saying they are on their designated tracks. I get worried as I hear that but play it off as just my imagination. Carefully our mentor decides to move on but keeps glancing back at us. Single file I fall to the back of the group. I have no idea why I did, to be honest. Swear I hear twigs and other forest essentials snapping and breaking to my left. It's just my imagination. The girl who also saw this thing keeps looking over her shoulder to the left. I am trying to remain as calm as I can, but internally my heart felt like it had just done meth. Our mentor picks up the pace a little. Wondering why. Hear what sounds like heavy steps to our right now. Oh wonderful. After only a few minutes we break into a clearing and the noises fade away. Still have the feeling of being watched. Our mentor does a head count, then walks a bit away to radio in. Can't quite make out what she's saying, but I heard something along the lines of "we're being followed." The other kids are visibly disturbed now. Everyone is pretty quiet, except for a few who are whispering. Our mentor comes back and tries to put on a smile. Says that we got lost and we have to wait until our teachers and such come and find us. It's total BS, but at least we're in a clearing. It is, I don't know why, but it's fun. Especially in a small group. One of the guys beckons me over cause I knew him, sort of. He starts talking about yowies and all that. Please don't scare me anymore, young man, I am already about to have a heart attack. Saying that it's legend with the Aborigines and all that. He says that's what he thinks is following us. I was convinced he was just trying to scare myself and the group cause he was that guy, but he did seem genuine. After what had felt like an hour, about 15 minutes, the mentor's radio starts going off. It's one of my teachers. He's asking if we're heading back to camp cause there is something in the forest coming their way. Before she can answer we hear him yell out from a distance away. Hey, over here. All that nonsense. Then there was a really loud roar, is the only way I can describe it. Really deep and long. All the girls and most of the guys start screaming. I am screaming internally but more frozen in fear on the outside. Mentor gets up and proclaims that we are getting out of here and getting back to camp. I guess the lie is over and nope.exe has been booted up. We double time it diagonally towards the teacher's voice. Basically jogging as fast as we can without losing each other. The footsteps return but the sound closer. Noping intensifies. Some kids begin to flat out sprint towards the dim light of the camp. Mentor is screaming at them to stay together. They are clearly in a state of shock or something like that and aren't listening. Our mentor starts swearing. Suddenly a rock comes flying over our heads. Smacks into a tree beside us, shaking loose pine needles. Whatever is following us is getting closer and faster. We are about 40 meters away from the forest's edge. I can hear whatever these things are huffing and puffing alongside me. The kid in front of me is crying. I am not sure if I have shit my pants or am just sweating profusely. We break through the edge of the forest. Don't stop till we get to the teachers. Then I collapse out of adrenaline-fueled fear running. Teachers insist on us not telling the other groups, who had been put on the bus. They say we are leaving in the morning. Eventually, when we have calmed down, the others are let off the bus. Supposedly they were playing games of some sort and didn't hear anything. The story was one of us got lost and the teachers had to come looking for us. Fast forward to about 2 a.m. Need to pee. Really don't want to, but I will piss myself if I don't. Stand just a ways from the tent and do my business, cause fuck walking all the way to the outhouse. As I finish up, I see movement at the edge of the tree line. Whatever it was big. Tell myself it was just my tired mind and still being scared. I eventually talked to one of the girls from my group at school and she said that she had to go to the loo in the early hours of the morning. And while she was in the outhouse, something big was walking around the camp. OFW.
I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail. In the Smoky Mountain portion. Other hikers tell me I should find a partner to do a night hike with, because it's fun. What could go wrong.jpg. Get to a shelter one day, there's another hiker making camp. Ask him if he wants to take the next day off, then hike through the night. He agrees. The next day we bum around camp, napping and prepping for the night hike. Dusk falls. Surprise, he changes his mind. I'm on a schedule and can't afford to lose the miles. Foolishly start hiking. Everything's great at first, beautiful sunset at Rocky Top Mountain. Night falls. At night, the forest becomes alive and loud. I'm hearing what I can identify as a rabbit getting eaten by most likely bobcats, could have been a mountain lion for all I know. The area gets much more dense than I anticipated. No moonlight comes through the trees, the trail gets thinner. All I have to guide me is a flimsy headlamp which illuminates a circle less than a foot in diameter. The terrain is rapidly ascending. I know I'm hiking up a peak. The animal noises and the sound of the wind through the trees gets louder as the hours pass. It feels like it's in my ear and I'm hiking fast. It's around midnight now. The ground becomes level. I can taste the thinner air. I am at or near the top. A feeling comes over me I can only describe as the way you feel when you hear about extremists executing towns full of people. I feel sorrow where before I was anxious at worst. I can feel something is terribly wrong and I shed a tear without even knowing why. Then I hear whimpers. I thought it was myself at first. I look towards the sound. On my left, I see a pale, skinny, and bald-headed child. It's crouched on both feet, looking straight down with its arms wrapped around its knees. It starts to look up at me. I don't look. I just fucking run. I'm running down a mountain at night. I'm not thinking, I just need to get away. I fall and start rolling down the mountain. I feel nothing because my adrenaline, but I start limping when I get up. Don't look back.mpeg. I hike about 3 miles, set up camp quick. Get in my tent. Zip it up. I'm so exhausted I sleep without camp pad or sleeping bag. I wake up. I'm bruised and bloody as hell. When I get up I feel my ankle swelling beneath me. Get out of the tent. There are bird tracks circling and pacing around my tent. Thank you for reading this. I know this doesn't make my story proven, but I'm a skeptic who doesn't believe in ghosts. And I know the bird tracks are related somehow.
OP here, I have another Innawoods story. Be 6th grade me. At 6th grade camp or secon or whatever it is. Night 2, at camp. Cabin leaders are pretty cool 9th/10th graders, they were called Running Bull and something else, to avoid using real names. Half of the cabin never sleeps, we all just lie there awake whispering. Every once in a while one of the cabin leaders would get up and tell us to shut up. There was the occasional kid that went to take a dump in the middle of the night, or the kid who tries to sneak out. In the middle of the night everything is still. Suddenly a bump on the side of the cabin. And again. We are all looking around at each other, everyone is still and completely silent. Suddenly mumbling outside of cabin. Cabin leader gets up and says, "Hey, shut up, we're trying to sleep," or something to that effect, and goes back to bed. Mumbling continues for a minute or so, and then stops. Next morning no one speaks of it to each other, to the cabin leaders, to the kids who were asleep, to the kids in the other cabins. Next night before we go hiking we hear the story of Old Man Murphy, a killer who hid out at this camp and killed people. On some hikes you can see his house. Obviously bullshit story, but there is an Old Man Murphy hike where you go to his house and he chases you with an axe. Only the lucky ones got on the Old Man Murphy hike, no one from my cabin. On different hike group in the middle of the night. We can hear the Old Man Murphy group screaming in the distance. 20 minutes later we are far enough from the Old Man Murphy group so that we can't hear them. There is this part of the hike called the Courage Walk or something where the guide goes ahead and you have to walk a trail alone. My turn for the Courage Walk. Halfway through the Courage Walk I'm just zoning out, not paying attention because it was a straight path. Hear moving in the trees to the side of me and same mumbling. Look around me and see no trail. Realize I am lost. Move as quickly and as quietly as I can to find the trail, or at least the guide hit my arm on a tree and cut it. Stop and listen. The mumbling isn't behind me or to the side of me anymore. It's in front of me. I don't care how much noise I make anymore, I'm full on sprinting through the woods until I find something. I finally find the end of the trail after a few minutes. The guide is mad at me because I wasn't on the trail. Explain that I got lost because I wasn't looking where I was going. Don't say a word about the mumbling. A person who just finished the Courage Walk saw me getting scolded for being off the trail. She walks up to me and says that it is mean of me to go into the trees and make noises to scare people. I say, "What are you talking about? You were walking around in the trees and mumbling and it scared the hell out of me. That wasn't me." "Oh shit, Jeff. Don't speak of it to anyone." Got back to the cabin that night and didn't sleep. The whole time I was just waiting for the bumping into the cabin and the mumbling to happen. Didn't happen the whole rest of the time I was there. Minor one that happened to me back in 2016. Be me, volunteering in a local anti-drug group in Northwest Georgia. All the volunteers get invited to a summer cookout and movie night at one of the supervisor's house in the country. Have a good time, dusk is slowly setting in. Most volunteers are watching a movie on the big projection screen they set up in a covered stable area. Me and a few friends are laying down on a blanket probably 100 feet from the group, looking up at the stars trying to identify constellations. See a small white light that appears to be moving pretty quickly across the sky. Point it out and say something like, "I don't hear any noise coming from that thing and it's not blinking, so that might be the International Space Station." The light starts to slowly get brighter as it moves. Everyone gets quiet as they're looking up at it. The light starts to look as if someone is 30 feet above us shining a flashlight directly onto us. Prop myself up semi-surprised, look around to see the light is focused just on the blanket. Listen hard for sound as I thought it might be some weird helicopter thing. A few of us start to get worried and ask WTF is going on as the light is still getting brighter. Just as panic is setting in for us, the light appears to lose interest and dims back to its original glow and continues on through the night. We sit there for a few moments before deciding to go join the others. Nobody else saw it since they were in a covered stable area watching the movie, but my friends verify that this did indeed happen, even years later. Fuck all this shit, man. I live in Saskatchewan, and when I was in grade 7 back in the early 2000s, the grade 8 class went to Cypress Hills on a camping trip. This is fucked up. I'm shaking typing this. Green text time. Arrive at Cypress Hills after an incident where a teacher ran out of gas and one of the other vans had to get a gas can and rescue them. Yes, this incident was a source of merriment even into high school. It was hilarious having a teacher fuck up. Anyways, they arrive, set up, and the teachers say they can go on a group walk, supervised of course. Everyone decides they want to walk into the wilderness adjacent to the group camping area. So off they go, immediately see a moose and find a large tower-like structure made of logs which was apparently astoundingly slippery due to the rain the previous evening. After climbing on this tower with the teachers praying to the god of permission slips, they move on. It's beginning to get dark, as they arrived at around 6 o'clock and it was 8:30 before they finished setting up and shit. The teachers say okay, time to go back. Everyone pulls out a flashlight and laughs. Keep exploring, with one teacher keeping track of the route they take. Come upon an area where they can see a moderately clear area, but a stream blocks their path, and the teachers told them they weren't getting wet, unless everyone brought wetsuits and towels. His sentence trails off as he looks across the stream, and a female teacher asks what is that? Vaguely human-like figure in the trees past the clear area, and it was almost glowing, it was so white. Moved extremely jerkily and just wrong, as the student who told us this story described. 3 female kids start screaming that it's not an animal or human or anything and they need to go back. Teachers are clearly wanting to run just as bad as most of the kids, some kids clutching at teachers as if they were their parents. Can't just book it as kids will surely become separate. Teachers say it's just an albino moose or something and they should head back as it's very dark and the stream is preventing them from continuing straight. Head back, make fire, eat fire, cook stuff, everyone tense but enjoying themselves. Fucking starts raining, everyone decides it's bedtime. Sometime in the middle of the night, one person says his watch read 3 a.m., another claimed it was closer to 2, one of the groups of girls just starts screaming frantically. Teachers flock out of tents, as well as a few students who didn't care about how wet they'd get. Guy telling this story included, he made a quip about him grabbing his wetsuit and towel before exiting the tent when telling the story. Teacher yells at something to shoo. Another teacher just yells, "What the fuck is it, Dave, our teacher?" I suppose at this point, for some clarification, I should mention that this section of the story was relayed to us by a student a day after they returned from the trip, and our teacher, Dave, allowed him to tell us the story during class time. At this part of the story, Dave claims the grade 8 teacher didn't actually swear and the student relaying the story was exaggerating, which we all believed, as the grade 8 teacher was extremely laid back and mellow. Can't remember the name of the student telling the story though. Anyways, the teachers are all yelling, and something audibly scampers or shuffles or something into the woods. The students who left their tents are freaking out, the girls are still screaming, and a park ranger actually comes to the camp 20 minutes later as campers a good ways away heard the commotion and reported it. The teachers explain the situation, and the ranger says he's not sure what it could have been, but it was likely a moose or deer and they were just not used to seeing them in the dark again, likely going to be 4 parts or more. Everyone sleeps the last few hours, or claims they did at the very least, and nothing of interest happens for the rest of the trip. The guy relaying this story to us said they called it the Whiteman and they pranked each other a lot the last day. Now, this was a yearly thing for the last 3 years. Grade 8s raise some dosh and go to Cypress Hills for a weekend. So we were pooping ourselves about our turn in a year. A year passes. Most people have forgotten about Whiteman's story and are fairly excited. On the way there someone jokes to the teacher driving our van to check her fuel gauge. Someone mentions looking for Bigfoot in the woods. I then add or Whiteman, having forgotten about it until cryptozoology was brought into the mix. Everyone just stops. Teacher driving our van did not go last year and doesn't seem to know what we're on about or just thinks it's some kid's story. She was pretty ditzy. We arrive, set up. While setting up, the mellow teacher lets out a string of curses when the U-Haul we used to move our camping stuff didn't want to open. I think about the what the fuck is it, Dave incident. We get set up though, and decide upon exploration, as kids are wont to do. Ask teachers about the log tower thing in the woods. They show us the way. Climb on it like little moronic monkeys. Go for a small walk deeper into the woods, nothing interesting. Teachers insist we head back when it starts getting a bit dark, even though a few kids brought flashlights. All the teachers had flashlights hidden in their coats as well, we later found out. First night was nice, had a talent show, ate lots of junk food, went well. Next day we try to go to a tourist spot which is closed for whatever reason. We go back to the campsite and decide to mess around on the tower and play some sort of pretend gunfight thing. By we I meant me and 8 other guys, most of the girls just stayed and hung out at the campsite. Couple guys did as well, we're going to play a board game and bet candy or some shit. That one weird kid is laying on the ground with his legs vertical on a tree reading some book. Before we went to explore we were taking photos of him being weird for whatever reason. It's amazing the details you remember in these situations. Anyways, a teacher accompanies us, the ditzy one that drove us. We all mess around, she's all be careful the whole time. Rained a bit the previous night, not enough to disturb our sleep but enough to be noticeable in the morning. So as a result it was slippery as fuck. We were used to it being relatively dry, and one kid takes a nasty tumble off of the makeshift ladder we had to make to get up to the top of this tower thing, which was only 8 feet above the ground or so. He isn't hurt seriously but has a few cuts that looked worse than they were. Dit's teacher panics and takes him back to camp. We decide the best course of action is to explore further than the previous night. About 3 p.m. at this point. Start talking about Bigfoot and then immediately after that, Whiteman. A little into our exploration a deer takes off into the woods. We shit ourselves and run back. Of course we all know it was a deer, but we claim it was Bigfoot, yada yada, kids are stupid lying fucks. That evening we want to explore more. Wait until teachers are occupied and think we're hanging out in our tents. We head off, flashlights and sharpened sticks in hand. One of the funnier guys in our class manages to get super ahead of us without us noticing and jumps from behind a tree, in his underwear, scaring the shit out of us. We ask why he's almost nude and he says he thought his clothes were too reflective and he could hide better that way. Moron forgot where he dropped his clothes. We start looking for them, splitting into 2 or 3 groups, forget exactly how many. My group was the largest, 6 of us out of the 10 or 11 total. Yeah, it had to have been 3 groups, as one was only 3 people, and another 2, so 11 kids total, 3 groups, 1 large, 2 small. We go in roughly the same direction, flashlight beams still visible but not in one group. Find his clothes, he gets dressed while I take a piss and another guy gives me some light to piss by. He's facing into the woods in one direction, and I'm facing in the opposite direction, he's pointing the flashlight behind him towards me. Flashlight goes off of me as I'm zipping back up and he yells Whiteman. I turn and look, and sure enough, some large ass thing is in the woods a good ways away, obscured by trees, and glowing white almost, probably due to the flashlight. Shit, it was probably 10:30 or 11 at night, should mention that. I scream, not yell, he starts screaming, and the rest of the group comes over, they were only about 20 feet from us talking while the one guy gets dressed. When they join us the thing starts walking in its fucked up shuffle and we notice it has at least 2 more limbs than it should. At this realization we bolt towards the other groups who were headed towards us. The teachers apparently heard us screaming and started towards us, leaving one teacher behind to watch the kids at the site that were either sleeping or about to. We all merge into one big group of kids. Teachers come a minute later with one leading the way with a flashlight the size of my head. They start to scold us for being out here at night without supervision, and mid-sentence we hear these huge shuffling movements in the trees. The teachers without flashlights in hand pull some from their coats and start scanning the woods with the rest of us, everyone deadly silent aside from one guy weeping. I think it was the one who was lighting up my urination. I'm shaking like a motherfucker at this point. I grab a flashlight from one of the kids who isn't scanning the woods, just holding it. I feel like everyone's either ignoring me or F5ing like motherfuckers when they read a part. We can't see the goddamn thing, too many trees and such, but we can hear it moving, and it sounds like it's getting closer. Teacher Dave asks if we know the way back to camp. We swing around and see the tower is barely in sight in that direction, stands out due to the whittled look of the logs, no bark, which is why they were so fucking slippery. We say yeah, we can. Dave says we need to make sure everyone has a flashlight or is with someone who has one. Since the outcast kids weren't with us, we paired up easily where required, me with the kid who I took the light from. Dave tells us we're going to sprint back to camp in case it's a bear or something. My mom almost called the school when I told her the story, as she thought that was highly irresponsible, but I explained the lack of bears and that was just him trying to dismiss the Whiteman thoughts in his head. Everyone fucking makes a break for camp. We hear the thing pick up speed, even over our own footsteps and the wind in our ears. One kid eats it and the mellow teacher picks him up and continues. We all gather in the open air canopy thingy that had the tables and such. People who were at camp barraging us with questions. Then this fucking thing appears at the edge of camp behind some trees, hiding it somewhat but not enough to mask its obvious otherworldliness. Dave keeps repeating, "That's not a moose, that's not a moose." It seems to want to move towards camp, kind of shifts weight in that fashion. Some kids begin screaming. Teachers just start yelling at it to get out of here and such. It turns and shuffles into the woods again. None of us get a wink of sleep. Ranger comes by in the morning asking what happened. Dave and mellow teacher take him away and talk with him. We can't hear anything of their conversation. All we hear is mellow teacher in a raised voice exclaim, "Deer don't have upwards of 6 goddamn legs though." Ranger is visibly disturbed through the whole conversation. We wind up leaving the next day, a day early. Dave is the only one that will talk about it. He says he admits he thinks it was the same creature and it wasn't a deer. School stops going to Cypress Hills due to changes in policy about field trips.
Stood about 30 feet from what people refer to as a Wendigo, thought I was going to die. I can post a story if interested, but I've tried before and the thread was washed out by RPing douches. I'm calling BS. That thing woulda ripped you apart if you were feet from it. Maybe. Maybe not. All depends on whether or not Anon is a Templar of /K/. Not a Templar from /K/, but I'm almost certain I came across it after it had killed 2 German shepherds. Which might have been what saved me. When I first saw it, I thought it was a big white dog. It was crawling on all fours. It never stood up, never vocalized, just watched me. It only moved when I moved, but it was more of a maneuver, like it was trying to get a good look. It was incredibly fast though. Yeah, I can do that. I don't think I'm going to green text though, so sorry if it's a little long. From about the age of 16 to the age of 21, 24 now. I used to go on walks late at night. My sleep schedule was fucked after school ended, and so I spent most of my time awake during the late night/early morning hours. But living in a more suburban area, it was never really an issue. That isn't to say I live in a nice area, just that it's not really as crime-ridden as it could be. But I digress. I had worked out a pretty solid schedule for these walks, leaving at anywhere between 10 to 12 at night and coming back either when I had had enough serenity for the night or my legs began to ache. Generally though, each walk would last 3 to 5 hours, during which I would travel out of my neighborhood into the neighboring areas. Another thing to note is that my neighborhood, for whatever reason, only has a handful of streetlights, usually at the small stop sign intersections. Because of this, I became very comfortable with being in the dark, and developed a love for the moon. I always made it a point to leave a little earlier during full moons to enjoy the peace, silence, and the glow that pure moonlight casts over everything. So anyway, onto this particular night. It was fall, I remember, because the air had just begun to carry a chill, and a really specific sort of smell that seems so come with the changing of the seasons. I left a little later than normal that night, having been distracted by gaming. I do distinctly recall staring up at the moon, and being overcome by a strange feeling. I don't really know how to describe it, only that it felt different. Even now though, I think it was the schedule being off kilter that particular night that caused the feeling, because that's just what makes the most sense. Anyway, I took my normal path, heading down a few streets of little note and making my way toward a favorite stretch of road. It's one of those that have no street lights to speak of, and the houses along the sides are bigger, the type with the big yards pushing the buildings 100 or so feet out from the roadside. I remember seeing the road and staring into the darkness, accustomed to the sight even with the moon as bright as it was. It always gets brighter inside, it's just a trick of the shadows since there are some spots on the road that are covered pretty heavily with trees. And I was almost overcome with a very specific feeling, one that I hadn't felt in several years of taking these walks: dread. To be completely honest, I was surprised at myself, and irritated, and it was that irritation that made me continue walking. I ended up quietly humming to myself as I entered the darkness, Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, if you're curious, and had made it about 100 yards down the road when I heard a loud scuffing down the driveway to my left, about 10 yards away from me. I moved into a heavily shaded area and watched, noting that whatever was moving down the gravel driveway was big, and sounded like a dog. Much to my surprise, it seemed to be a huge, white dog. At least, until my eyes focused on it. In the moonlight, sometimes things take on an eerie glow and shapes can be misconstrued, so I was only watching it with curiosity until it got a little closer, and I realized that it wasn't white fur shining in the moonlight, but skin. Bare, pale skin. This caused a shift in my perspective and I began inspecting the rest of this new sight, only to realize that it wasn't a dog at all, but a man. A very tall, incredibly emaciated man. His skin was pulled tight over his skeleton, and he trotted along on all fours as if it were the most natural thing in the world. At this point, I was a definite combination of freaked out and interested, so I took a single step closer, as quietly as I could, and squinted my eyes to get more specific details. Its legs seemed to be normally shaped, as far as a human's go, but the forearms were elongated, giving it a very surreal hunch that was, obviously, not human. Oh, another thing to note is that its head was completely bald, and the moonlight hit it and made it glow, which is sort of funny. And then I noticed it was looking at me. The light reflected off of its eyes with a dim yellow shine, which is what drew me into getting a good look at its face. It was featureless. Not blank, but there was nothing notable about it. It had no ears that I could see, its nose, if it wasn't a trick of the light, was very small. No lips to speak of. And it just stared. We stared at each other for several long seconds, my mind reeling as I struggled to come to some sort of solution for how I would get out of this situation. But none came, that is, until a car's headlights flashed down the road. In my idiotic half-panic, I turned my head to see if the car was coming down the road I was on, and as soon as I did, I heard a rapid, heavy shuffling. I jerked my head back and the thing was gone. I struggled with keeping my fear in check and made a cursory scan of the area around me, and I found it, sitting in the yard to my left. It was about 20 feet away this time, sitting in the big yard just outside of the light being given off by the home's porch light. It was one of those huge yards I mentioned earlier, so there was some space between it and the house too. The only reason I noticed it at all was because I had caught the very end of its movement, otherwise the yard was heavily shaded by a bunch of trees. So, I stared. And it stared. We watched each other, me standing on the side of the road in the dark, and it hunched down in this yard, motionless as far as I could see. Finally, my mind settled into a solution I could actually make work. I have phone shortcuts, and I know my best friend is awake, as I had been talking to him before I left. So I called him, never taking the phone from my pocket until I heard the muffled "what's up?" of my friend answering. I placed my hand over the light sensor of the screen to make sure it was dark when I pulled it from my pocket, placed the phone to my head, and said, "I'm on, street name, get here as soon as you can." Luckily, he was able to understand how serious I was being, and hung up immediately. Thus began the longest 5 minutes of my life. I closed my phone and slid it back into my pocket, never taking my eyes off the thing. Fortunately for me, it seemed keen on simply staring in turn. I don't remember my thought process in detail, only that one thought of, "I can't believe this is happening," repeating over and over every few seconds. Then, mercifully, headlights. Knowing that it was my friend, I began slowly backing away toward the oncoming car. The creature, apparently realizing that the vehicle was heading in our direction, turned and bolted away, slamming into the fence between the yard it was in and the driveway it had come from, scaling the fence and disappearing. Feeling safe enough to turn, I was getting ready to run to my friend's car. I slowly rotate toward the headlights to see not my friend's car, but a police patrol car. I froze in place as the headlights washed over me and the car just cruised on by, my friend's vehicle right behind it. He pulled over and I was in the car before he even put it in park. Not that it mattered much, because I told him to get me the fuck out of there immediately. He kept asking questions, but it was around that time that the full weight of the experience hit me, and I just sort of sat there in silence, trying to process what I had seen. He drove off, and I noticed that the police car had stopped in the driveway that the thing had come from, with 2 officers getting out and making their way toward the home. It occurred to me then, that if they had been called by the owner of the house, a woman with her 2 big German shepherds, that if she had reported a disturbance, the cops would most likely have stopped and questioned me. Unless they were given a more specific description. And like I said, I haven't seen those dogs since. This was about a year or so ago. My BF and I went camping in northern Michigan, not the UP, gotta make that distinction or else the Yoopers will come for me. Also, first green text I don't really post often, sorry if shit. We're in the middle of a state park, just looking for a spot to camp that looks nice enough. This area looks promising. Park the car off the road a bit, then go on foot about 200 feet from the car or so. Find a small clearing, have to crush down some twigs and move some bigger young trees, but good spot. Can just barely make out the car through the trees and brush. Not try and go miles away, nothing to prove, just campin'. Spot's good enough for us. Have a small folding table for eating at inconvenience. Set up tent opposite of table with room in between them for a fire. Day goes nicely, hike around a bit, return to camp. Start up a fire for coziness and food. Making some dinner, but also breakfast because I am scrambling eggs. We brought a cooler to store some lunch meat and the eggs. After dinner discuss returning the cooler to the car because animals. We'd only seen some deer and squirrels around, but a bear could appear. Decide fuck it, don't want to walk through the woods. Leave the cooler next to the table. So the fire is in between us. Retire to the tent, get in big sleeping bag for 2 people because cozy. The fire dies down to glowing ash, plus we dug a little hole, area is dirt around it. Sorry Smoky. Don't have the rain fly on, it was a nice day, no rain predicted. Stars are pretty and we fall asleep eventually. Wake up to the sound of something rustling near our camp. Trying to see what's out there, but the moon is hidden by clouds and the ashes have almost lost their glow. Wake up BF. Something's near us. Oh shit.jpg. He wants to get out and go look. We don't know what it is, won't let him. We're super quiet and still. See something come out of the brush near the table. Can barely make out a shadow. Walks closer towards the cooler. I see what I think is a raccoon standing on 2 legs. About that height, I would say. Another one comes out. Damn raccoons trying to eat our food. About to get out and scare them off. BF puts his arm out to stop me. Those aren't raccoons, Anon. Look closer. I can't make them out all the way. But the shadow looks like a little person, however tall a raccoon is long. Kinda stout or big boned, as some might say. Just frozen with awe and confusion. Think I must be seeing things. But he sees it too. He pointed it out. No spooky fear, just the what the hell is this kind. We just sit and watch the shadows. More of silhouette as guess just didn't think of that word before. They rummage through the cooler for a bit. Don't want to go out because we don't know what they are. And don't want them to know we noticed them especially. They leave back into the woods. We both confirm what we just saw with each other. Very confused, very tired. We fall back asleep after some time just sitting up and looking around the camp. Wake up the next day. Look around the camp, no footprints or anything. Check the cooler. The bologna is missing. MFW, some gnome people stole our freaking bologna. We both agreed that they kinda looked like gnomes or another small person thing that I don't know the names of. No pointy head or anything, just like a really short stocky person. We weren't scared or threatened, but we did move to another site. Just because we didn't want to mess around with whatever those things were. Needless to say, we put the cooler in the car for the rest of the trip. Didn't see anything else crazy. We're not sure what we saw. But to our best description, they were like some weird lil gnomes. I hope they liked the bologna. We've talked about it with some of our close friends. Some think that they were raccoons still, but we've seen plenty of raccoons out camping, and they weren't like that at all. Maybe we ate bad eggs, lol, I don't know, but not experience, that's for sure.